Blake Snell signs for a ton of money. Trevor, you want to kick this off in terms of what you saw going into the offseason? Was 182 in your head? Obviously, there's deferrals, there's bonus money. You're actually one of the best people to explain this too, because you live in the same state as Blake, and you can explain why he's making even more money than people think.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think a lot of people got pretty surprised that, a lot of people have been linked with the Dodgers, but it's funny. Blake Snell really wasn't one of them. There wasn't that many rumblings, but honestly, the 5-year range was entirely within the realm of possibility. I thought that was probably a pretty good call. But like to get that high of an AAV was a little bit of a surprise. I thought it was gonna be like more like 165, 170, like something around the 32 a year, maybe a little bit more with some opt-outs and things. But the really interesting thing about this contract is that massive signing bonus. Now, I was in New York in 2021 when Francisco Lindor signed his mega deal, and he signed a $21 million bonus. And at that time, we were like, that's insane, right? So $52 million in bonus money is incredible. He signed with the California team. That's 13% extra state tax on that. So I did the math, and he lives in Seattle. There's no income tax here. So if you get paid, which that's what bonuses are for, you get paid at your home, in your home state, or wherever your resident address is. He's going to save just under $6 or $7 million on this. Like, that's just cash in pocket over the life of the contract, which is incredible. But I bet, because there was some back end deferment as well, that was the trade off. It was get the bonus, and we'll defer a little bit of money too, and make this thing a little bit easier on you, because long term deferments are better for the team than the player, because the rule of thumb is to get the money early, let it work for you as long as you can. So if you defer money, then you kind of put the ball in their court, and they get to kind of put that on the books the way they want to, which is what they like to do. Businesses like to do that. It makes operating a little bit easier when you have flexibility. So it's very interesting, but I totally understand the signing bonus and wanting the way all that to kind of happen the way it did. And I mean, in terms of pitching profile, he fits. They don't got to teach him anything. He's exactly what they teach everybody there. So, I wouldn't be surprised if he learns a sinker when he goes over there. But he is someone they need. He's a guy that just makes that team even better. Which coming off World Series win is crazy to think about. But I think it's pretty abundantly clear that Blake Snell wanted to stay on the West Coast, and I think we can say that with some certainty at this point. He's been trying really hard to stay over here. So. It doesn't surprise me in that way anyway. It's a pretty great deal, kind of both ways. I think they got one of the best guys out there. I thought he was going to go on the East Coast somewhere, but now one of the lefties are off the board.
He's currently the career strikeouts per 9 leader.
Yep.
In the history of baseball.
Higher than Nolan Ryan. A lot higher than Nolan Ryan. Yeah.
He's higher than Nolan Ryan. He is higher than Chris Sale, who at the beginning of the season was the career leader in it. But you sit there and you go, of course the Dodgers could unlock something else. And people are like, well, how can you unlock anything else? Like, he's had some stretches that have been dominant. Can they unlock that for the entire season? He could possibly be a Cy Young candidate again. He's got 2 already this year. He's figured out what he needs to do. He stays healthy. And you know what? Rarely would you say this. He might be the innings eater on this rotation, because they're going to rock a 6-man rotation. He has always wanted to go deeper into games, and statistically, he's actually better the 3rd time through. And that was an absolute flex by him, saying he's going to get number 7 with the Dodgers and posting that on his Instagram. That's what we're watching right here for everybody who's watching the pod. I just think it's awesome. And I know we're going to get into it, but the whole it's unfair. No, it's not. And I'll explain why it's not unfair that the Dodgers got him whenever we get into it.
We can go. Might as well. We'll go back to some other parts of the rotation and all that, but go ahead, because you're going to get pissed off people every time the Dodgers do anything at this point. And we saw that last offseason. A lot of people were like, we don't need to play the season out. Dodgers are going to win. Now, they were correct, technically, but the Padres were close to taking them down before they even made it to the LCS. So Vinny Pasquantino's laughing. Michael Harris had the the Office meme with the eye roll about another Dodgers signing. So thoughts on fairness of what the Dodgers are doing? And I'll give you one more layer to this, Kratz. There's people that are trying to get really technical that are complaining on social media about how deferrals, for example, are a scam. They're not a scam. It's what players agree to. Trust me, if deferrals were not making sense, the players wouldn't allow it. And really, the teams wouldn't allow it. I think there's just a supreme lack of financial literacy from our country in general. And I'm included in that boat because we don't learn it. It's not part of the American education system, that's the scam. But can you explain to everyone why the Dodgers are playing fair ball and many other billionaires could be doing what they're doing, and the percentage of the money that comes in for the Dodgers goes back into the ball club, and then they still make tons of profit on top of that? That can happen with a lot of other teams. Invest in your own product, and then your product will be more valuable. What a concept. That's how startups work. That's how any freaking business works, right? From a baby business all the way to following big tech companies in the stock market. So I don't understand why people get so upset. There's one person to get upset at, and it's your team ownership group if you feel like they're robbing you of money. And most of them are collecting a ton of money. So tell me I'm wrong, Kratz, but the only team that it appears spends more of its incoming money on player payroll and everything else going into the ball club is the Mets and Steve Cohen, because the Mets make much less than the Dodgers, and they pour into it, and it's Uncle Steve's toy.
For now, they make much less than the Dodgers. The Mets are they're building all around the stadium. They bought all those chop shops and everything that are around the stadium. They're turning it in. There's a long-term plan to make the Mets really good. Oh, and they want to win right now. The aspect that I'm going to go to is not about, it's not fair for the Brewers or for the Rays because they just don't have that much money. And we're going to see tons of memes, all the money that was spent by the Dodgers, this is half of the entire, the rotation costs more than their entire team, all that stuff, whatever. To me, people who say this is unfair don't enjoy competition. Because if you are a competitive person, which in my opinion, all 30 owners should be competitive. They should want to win the ultimate prize by the end of the season and be the last team standing. If you're a competitive person, you don't want to be around mediocrity. You don't want to be around people who sit there and go, we're going to try our best. We're going to go and get our workout in. We're going to, we'll just work on our craft for 2 or 3 days a week. You want to be around people who push you to make you better. And I was asked this morning if on a radio station in Toronto, if this is bad for baseball. And I said, it is great for baseball because this will elevate everybody else's game. It will elevate the amount of money your owner spends. Or you know what? You're going to get left behind. I get it. Not everybody can spend as much as the Dodgers. But if you want to be competitive and you want to be the best, you want to win it, you're going to look to the Dodgers. They just won it and they're pushing harder in. So you're going to run. It's the old little brother syndrome. If your older brother is running faster than you, you want to run faster than him every single time. Everything says you can't do it, but you want to run faster than him. You want to catch him. And one day when you do catch him, oh, baby, does it feel good.
I agree. I mean, it lights a fire. It should light a fire. That's the thing. If it doesn't light a fire under you to compete, then I don't know. Maybe you shouldn't own a baseball team. It's kind of the point. It's not. I think that we have a group of individuals that own some teams that do have that competitive streak and do think of it that way. And then there's others that are. It's just like it's a side business. It's a side hustle for them. They own other things that are making more money. So there is going to be an element of that. But I do want to play devil's advocate just kind of partially, just like 10%. The idea of deferments technically are like I mentioned before, in the benefit the team more than the player generally, just because of the unknowns of what that money is going to be worth when you get it, right? Money loses value over time. So it's going to be less than. So technically, if you're out there trying to make as much money as you can, like that's when you're signing a contract, you're taking less for that amount of money. So generally, players like, I want to avoid that if I can. Now, if players are willing to take it, the place they go might make them willing to take more deferment, which makes the team able to use deferments more often than others. So are the Dodgers able to use deferment as a tool more effectively than, say, the Cincinnati Reds? Probably. But it's still not something that's going to be widely adopted and really move the needle in some major way outside of Ohtani, obviously. But he does whatever he wants because he's in his own world, on his own tier. So we don't need to worry about him anymore. It's just, it comes down to, are you making the offer? Are you willing to do it? Are you willing to play ball in that way? Or are you just stuck at we only give $90 million deals out maximum? And if you do that, that's just not the way that the world's going to work. You got to start working in these signing bonus / deferment trade-offs. I think that's kind of the way these things are working, especially with the uncertainty around TV. So
yeah,
that's where it's all coming from, kind of.
Players don't have to take it. So that's my point too, is this is not being forced on a player. Also, we don't know what the number looks like for a player if there's not a deferral involved. This is just part of the offer that they're throwing out there. Mm-hmm. And we know there's easy math to be able to calculate approximate present day value. You can't get the exact. There's people that have different equations on what that number looks like, but we have an idea, for example, that Shohei Ohtani's $700 million when it signed at the time, present day value was 450-ish. There is a number that is calculated for Blake Snell's contract as well with the deferral. So it's going to be, it sounds like, in the $32 to $33 million range in present day, counting against the CBT number, the luxury tax number. So if you are a player and you're interested in it and you think that the best offer includes some deferred money, they're throwing that out there. Any team can do that. It is not a limitation on a rule. And here's the possible rotation for the Dodgers. Whew. Most of these guys didn't pitch in October for the Dodgers. I want to point that out as well. Right? Yamamoto was there. Obviously, Snell just was added. Ohtani wasn't pitching this year. Glasnow was hurt in October. Clayton Kershaw didn't pitch in October. Neither did Dustin May, Tony Gonsolin. Obviously, Gavin Stone's going to be out still for a while. Bobby Miller, Emmett Sheehan, who didn't pitch this season, who could come back and be a force. Oh, and there's one I'll throw in there off the board that I think is going to sign with the Dodgers, and his name's Roki Sasaki. Although maybe he's looking, he's like, damn, am I going to crack the roster? Am I going to crack the rotation? Obviously, they'll basically promise him that if he does sign. But, I mean, the starting rotation is very attractive, Trevor, but almost all of those guys have pretty deep injury history. And the Dodgers have a problem more than most teams, and they admit that publicly. Andrew Friedman said that. They're going through processes to try and fix it. But they do need to stack up starters, because we looked at their rotation last year before the season started, said, oh, this looks pretty damn good. And then we got to October and they're like, bullpen game.
Mm-hmm. You can't have too much pitching at the end of the day. No. And if there's a frontline guy you can go get him. So that's what they did.
Let's get to the layer of their offseason. I don't necessarily think the Dodgers are going to go crazy this offseason, but you guys let me know. I mean, from a starting rotation perspective, I think this was their target, and I think they got him. They're obviously going to be very aggressively recruiting Roki Sasaki. But other than that, it's not like they're going to now go sign Corbin Burns or Max Fried, or probably not even the next tier down of Sean Manaea and Luis Severino, etc. I don't see that happening. I think there's enough now from a depth perspective to talk them into being okay at the start of the year. And there's probably going to be, Trevor, some difficult conversations at the start of the year. If guys are feeling good in spring training, just be like, patience, your time will come. Look at every season for us. Unfortunately, you'll get plenty of starts here in a pretty quick time period. But I do see them, say, looking to bring back Teoscar Hernandez. He was a great fit for them. But otherwise, I'm just saying, when they strike early like this and they pinpoint Blake Snell as a top target, which I think was smart. There's some people making a case that he was the best pitcher available. If you look at when he has his best seasons, I don't think the Dodgers are just going to keep racking up players like we've seen, say, from them last year, just dominating all offseason.
Yeah, I think you're right with I think the Teoscar is probably going to be the next, maybe next highest money given out. And then I think that there might be an opportunity to go grab, another depth starting pitcher, or I think it's pretty likely they like re-sign Trinan, like grab another reliever for a year or two that can help in the back end, and then I think that maybe look for a budget option to help out at shortstop. I think that's really where these things are kind of pan out. I don't. There's really no need to do a bunch more than that. I think they got their big fish, but I think you're completely right. I think Corbin Burns and Max Fried are probably out, and those other teams that have been mentioned for them are probably in front of the line now. But it's still, I mean, you sign a guy for $182 million. It's not nothing, right? So they got one guy, but there's not a ton of huge holes, and I think it's just depth at this point.
I love how Scott said, I don't think they're going to go too huge. The Pirates, the Reds, the White Sox, the A's, I would just go down the list and be like, the Rockies are like, that many millions? Like, we got that wrong one time. We're not going back there again. Like, it's still a big move, but I would disagree with you, Trevor. I would say they're not going to go budget item at shortstop. I think they understand that the uncertainty at that position is not something that they want to go into. I think if you think they might go after Teo, I can see that, but I think Willie is going to be aggressively pursued by a team who has good defensive options at shortstop in Edman, and Mookie can play there a little bit. And if Gavin comes back, there's always a chance that Gavin Lux comes back. Now they're building for depth. And I think you just push those guys back down into depth if you go after Willie, and Willie becomes your legitimate starting shortstop for the next 3 or 4 years. I get it. It might be a 6 to 7 year contract, possibly even 8. But you sit there and you go, we have a legitimate shortstop right now, and we have a couple backups. If his defensive metrics that we didn't like from last year prove to be true, which I think it's an aberration, but only time will tell.
Is there a world where Mookie gets shifted back to the outfield again? Let's say Teoscar Hernandez just signs a ridiculously great deal for him and it's somewhere else. Somehow another team just wants him so badly and they, quote, overpay based on the market value. And the Dodgers do not like getting in these massive bidding wars. That is at least what is usually put out there. So let's say Teo is gone. And let's say they end up signing Adames. And then I guess in that case, you still could put Mookie at second. But my point is, could you put Gavin Lux at second, Adames at short, and then move Mookie back to the outfield? Isn't that the versatility component? What I'm trying to decipher is, when they made that slight announcement, did that mean that's definitely the plan and that's what he wants and what the team wants? Or was it still floating the possibility that they could throw him back into right field where he is elite?
I think they just threw that out there because it's most likely, with the caveat that it's Mookie Betts we're talking about, and he can just adjust minute to minute if you need him to. But it's easier to just like, this is the plan. We will adjust if we need to plan, adjust if we need to, but run your off season as if you're going to go out there or going to go wherever you're going. And then we will adjust if we need to. So I just think that it's just an incredible luxury for them to have a guy like that that's a superstar and an MVP who's willing to switch positions all the time. I think that one thing I haven't thought about is the lack of ego with this, because you can very easily be like, no, I want to play in this position. Stop it. But it's just not the way he is. So I think that's the way it's going, just so that it sets expectations for how other moves might happen or how the team might be put together moving forward. That is their intention. But if they need to adjust, I think they're just going to make the choice, just like they did last year.
The movie Three Amigos said, the one line in the movie Three Amigos, he said, would you say I have a plethora, boss? The Dodgers have a plethora. If you want to look up the word plethora, there will be a picture of the Los Angeles Dodgers 40-man roster. That is a plethora of talent, and they're versatile too. They're not like hamstrung like some teams who are going to, somebody's going to sign, most likely the Mets, going to sign Juan Soto. they are hamstrung to him playing right field and stop like, oh, they move him to first base. Like, no, it's right field and then it's DH. Generational talent. The Dodgers are not hamstrung. The only position they're hamstrung is with the MVP. He's only going to DH until he's done pitching. Then he's going to move to the outfield.
Ooh, I like that. Hey, back to Snell for a moment. He signed a little bit earlier than last year, Trevor, just a little bit. So, yeah, it's November 26th is when the news came out, which was yesterday. And if you do the total math, right, where obviously he hit the market last year and was hoping to get a big deal in the $200 million range, there's some deferrals. I get that. But if you take last year and this year, it's 6 years, $214 million. You want to knock the deferrals down closer to 200 for that number? Cool. But I think if you told him last year he was going to get 200, he would have taken that and been very happy. It didn't sound like he was getting offers like that last year, even though he was coming off a Cy Young award. I think there's more of a market this year. So far, it's looking good. Boris has gotten 2 of his lefty starters done with Kikuchi and with Blake Snell. And so far, that strategy looks accurate. Don't settle for something if you want to bank on yourself. The biggest problem for Snell was not getting himself going right away with a ball club and being all settled. That was important to him. That was stressed. And now he's all settled in. And I just think there are more teams involved this year. The Dodgers were involved last year and many others weren't. The Dodgers are still clearly involved this year because they made a ton of money, but the Mets are much more of a player this year. The Orioles have a new ownership group. We'll get to the Red Sox in a little bit, but they're claiming they're going to be more involved. Even the Nats and Tigers definitely weren't involved last year in the free agent market much. So I'll give credit to Snell. He's the one making the call. Ultimately, obviously, it's the representation as well. But he waited, and I think it just ended up being perfect timing because the Dodgers have liked him for a while. There's been other reports out there that they've made offers for him in the past. They've tried to trade for him in the past. Clearly, they value him high up on their board, and I'm sure you love him too. When he's at his best and you want 5 or 6 incredible innings, and now this year showing he can go even a little bit deeper than that. I mean, the Dodgers feel like they have a number one that they add to their number ones.
Yeah, you can't go wrong. I just it's interesting, though. It's almost like he went to San Francisco, and then the Dodgers are like, you know what? We're just, after half a year, him just dominating their division again. They're like, okay, like we got to make this happen. I wouldn't be surprised if he was really aiming for that last year, and it just never coalesced. There was a lot of uncertainty. The TV stuff, though, hasn't been figured out fully, really, and there's still a lot of uncertainty. There's less than there was last year. I also think there was a little concerted effort to, for all the owners, like, we're going to try to see how these things work, and maybe hold off. Half the teams are uncertain about the revenues and things, so like let's see how this thing progresses. So they were moving pretty slow. Same thing happened after COVID. So it's after 2020. It was this similar thing. So for him to go out and be like, hey guys, I really want to go here. Let's do this. This is what I'll do. Boom. He ended up getting it at the end of the day. I just think that it worked out, but it's very clear he was very scared of showing up in the middle of spring training. He's like, never want to do that again. I bet you Jordan Montgomery never wants to do that again either. So signing early and knowing what's going on is big for a guy early too. So I also felt that way. I wanted to get it over with for sure.
Yeah, I get that. Hey, and good call. I wanted to make sure we got that in there too. I mean, he was on the Giants last year, and the Dodgers are not making the Giants look good for the past decade plus, aside from the one season a few years back where they topped them, and it was a bit of an anomaly. So another little jab at them.
Hey everybody, be sure to like and subscribe for more content.
We're back here every weekday, all year long, so do not miss an episode.
The videos are coming in all day. Here's another video you might enjoy.
Baseball the way it should be covered.